You know what's more horrifying than sadistic murder?
What?
When James Charles tries to be cool and expose his ass to the world.
Yeah.
And everybody's just like, dude, we know you actually just wanted to show your ass off. P.S. Your ass sucks.
It's the worst.
Horrifying.
It's possibly the worst ass I've seen in my entire life, and I've
Yeah.
seen my own.
You've seen your fair share of asses
Yeah.
backslash your own. Yeah, man, as horrible as our asses are, they're not as bad as some of the asses in Three from Hell. Bad asses, that is. And by that, I literally mean there's some
Yeah.
horribly ugly asses,
Bad.
naked asses in Three from Hell. But anyway, Three from Hell is, of course, the third installment in Rob Zombie's, I guess, what do we even call this series? House of 1,000 Corpses series? Whatever the fuck. The Firefly Family series. It doesn't have a name. I just realized that. Most people give it some sort of moniker.
Yeah, the Rejects.
This one doesn't. The Rejects series? It could be any of those.
With an X.
Whatever. It's the third family. I'm sorry. It's a third outing featuring the Firefly group, the clan, if you will. Not the Ku Klux, thankfully.
God damn it.
But yeah, there was a lot of anticipation for this movie. I mean, first of all, it's a long ways off from Devil's Rejects. You know, it's a pretty, like a decade almost?
Yeah, maybe even more.
Maybe even more, yeah. I guess we could have researched the year, but fuck research is our motto. But yeah, man, there was a lot of anticipation because Zombie is kind of like this divisive figure in horror. A lot of people have taken to just disliking him for a variety of reasons. The biggest one, I think, is that he was responsible for the Halloween remakes.
Yeah.
And they just held that forever against him. The other reason being that he's not a very good screenwriter. His dialogue sucks balls most of the time. So they just, snowball that into the whole affair. And generally speaking, a lot of people in horror just dislike Zombie. They think he's a hack. They think he shouldn't be there. I disagree. I think there's a place for Zombie to be there. And I think he hits, when he hits his comfort zone, he hits it well. The thing is that his comfort zone is not for everyone.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the people that, a good majority of the people that do like it are kind of not conscious of why the things are cool. They think it's actually cool, which I don't think the Rejects are cool. I don't think they're cool characters. I don't think they're people to look up to or think they're awesome. I think the movies are something to admire for what they are. And I think it's mostly because you and I, we like exploitation movies. And exploitation movies are not a big thing anymore. I mean, really, they weren't even a big thing when they were a big thing. And Zombie, when he hits that particular tone, he really hits it on the head. And I think that's the strength of the Firefly Clan movies. That's what I'm calling them now. And I think this one did it again, but it took a while. It took a while to convince me that it had done it again. But surprised, I don't think I even... Did you suspect this was going to turn into some fucking hunchback fucking movie by the end?
Yeah.
But anyway, we're going to talk about this movie, the good and the bad. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. Then come back and talk with us. Hear us out. But real quick, this movie picks up first of all, it fills you in right away what happened. Basically, they survived. We were all kind of hoping, I think, for something more dramatic in the nature of how they survived. But basically, they just survived
somehow.
The hail of bullets at the end of Devil's Rejects. So I would have preferred something, cool. They had the tools in their hand. Dr. Satan is a character that exists in this world. They could have had him, bring him back, or whatever. The point is they survive. They do a bit in prison, a healthy chunk of a decade. And the movie, after introducing all these elements, is basically Devil's Rejects.
Yeah.
If you really think about it, or really, you don't even really have to think about it. It follows the same beats. Once that's out of the way, it's a couple of people on the run waiting for their partner to get there. Then they attack some people. A naked lady runs out and gets killed. Then they get together and then they're on the run again. Then they go to a place that's run by a guy and there's hookers and then there's a shootout at the end. It's the same fucking movie.
Yeah.
Only with, different little streaks thrown into the mix. So if we're gonna get a criticism out of the way that's legit, it's the same movie.
Yeah.
There's nothing new added to the formula here. So what did you think? Do you think that's against it or for it?
I think it's like a 2. It goes both ways, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Because it does at times feel kind of unnecessary. Because it is really just the same movie, only not as well done.
Right.
So for a long time, I was kind of like, this is a little bit of a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
I do think that it does hit a stride, like you said, towards the end. But it does kind of take a while.
And I think this is mostly because in Devil's Rejects, for example, or should I say suitably, because again, it's the same movie basically. In Devil's Rejects, there's a clear antagonist to them.
Yes, exactly. Which is kind of lacking here.
Yeah.
And he's such a crazy guy that he kind of rivals their craziness.
Yes. Now the Rejects are very unlikable in what they do. There's some really tough to swallow shit in Devil's Rejects, but ultimately they become likable not only because of their sense of humor and the way they spout off wise to each other and their relationship with each other, but because they're ultimately kind of like these representatives of unhindered freedom or anti-authoritarianism is what they ultimately represent, so we can root for them even if we dislike what they do. And here, since there's no clear antagonist for a good chunk of the movie, to paint them in a palatable light, we just dislike them, or at least I did. I didn't find, the hard stuff to swallow was hard because they were killing innocent people, and there was a really noticeable lack of rapport between them.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that had to do with Sid Haig not being there. He was the heart of that particular, I don't know, like...
He's kind of like the middleman.
Yeah, really.
Both together,
he tempered all the extremeness of the other two with a sense of humor. And the fact that he's not in the movie, spoiler, I guess, if you didn't see it, he's in it for not even a minute, maybe a little bit over a minute total.
Yeah.
He dies on the chair, and in real life, apparently. Rest in peace, Sid. But yeah, you could really see how important he was to the equation. And that's not saying anything against his replacement, Richard Brake, who plays, a mysterious out of nowhere half brother. That's not saying anything against him. It's just that was a very, very important piece of the puzzle. So not only do we have that particular piece missing, but yeah, we have no reason to cheer these characters on. We just see them as sadistic beings. It's when they are finally relaxed around each other, either in real life or in the movie. It kind of feels like both at times, that you begin to get into the groove of things. And when we actually see that antagonist rise, we feel that we could side with them again. So I think that's why that part of the movie feels not only redundant and, like you say, a little bit like a missed opportunity and a little bit like, we've been here.
A little pointless. But yeah, I think that's why that there's no clear reason to want these people to survive. You're just kind of like, damn, they're fucking assholes. In my opinion, it's kind of a slog, that first half. And not because it's like badly done or anything. It's just, you don't care for them. They're just shitty people.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're just seeing shitty people be shitty for like an hour.
And I agree. Now, I will say this. I did see a good portion of the first part of the movie. And seeing it again, it's easier to get through that. And I enjoyed it a lot more. But I stand with you on that. Yeah. It's hard to get through because of those exact reasons. There's just no reason Now, I wonder how seeing the whole thing over again, knowing that there's that's going to get to that antagonist, how that'll affect it. But still, that stands as a problem.
Yeah, and it is a little bit, I don't want to say, it's a little unfortunate they didn't introduce that element a little earlier because...
Yeah, and it wasn't even like it was a surprise. You could have introduced that element relatively early.
Because, you just kind of feel like this is a thing I'm watching for a while.
Yeah.
So the element we're talking about, of course, is their ultimate antagonist, which is played by Emilio Rivera, aka that guy that's all bad guy Mexicans ever. And he is basically Arondo's son, aka Danny Trejo's character from Part 2. That, he was a bounty hunter after the rejects. He's that guy's son. And Rondo gets killed early in this movie, which at the time, since we didn't get any immediate knowledge of it, we were just like, well, I guess Danny Trejo's scene is over. That was a thing that happened. But, which is why I agree with you fully. If they would have just introduced that earlier, not only would have it made that less of a the fuck moment, but it would also introduce a lot of intrigue and suspense to their escape. So, and it's not like they couldn't. Like, it was... Yeah. It would have been awesome to see this character get to his band together, to get the Black Satans together.
It would have felt a lot less random because...
Yeah, it does feel a bit unwieldy like that.
Yeah, because, like, at a certain point, they just go, hey, let's just go to Mexico. Mm-hmm. And the guys just happens to be there. It just feels a little lazy. Whereas if they had introduced that, it would have made more sense if stuff comes together, you know what I mean?
Right.
Whereas it's just kind of a little random and weird.
It is. Now, does that mean that the movie lacked in entertainment value? For me, no, there was stuff to chew on for sure. Some of it was good. Some of it was weird. And some of it was so ridiculous that it almost made me laugh. Like, there was this sequence. Baby, at this point, her mind has gone down the gutter. I mean, she was already pretty crazy. But at this point, she's just an absolute mess, psychologically speaking. And there's this part where she has this, like, vision of this cat lady in the vents of her cell.
This was very much like that scene in Halloween 2.
Yeah.
That it was very similar visually and everything. Yeah.
And it reminded me also of the vent lady in Eraserhead. It was just a weird sequence, and we got that she was crazy, and we got that, she was walking that line between sanity and insanity. But it was just such a random, like, what the fuck moment that I almost laughed. It was
I think
weird.
I think there's another confusing moment in this movie that just made me go, why is that there? Can you guess what it is?
No.
Clint Howard's appearance as a clown.
Look, there's a part where they're holding the family of the warden, which has a ridiculous mustache, by the way, which seems to be a thing with Rob Zombie. Here's a man that hates fake-looking wigs, and he always puts in the fakest-looking mustaches, at least one per movie. But Otis and Richard Brake's character Foxy are holding the warden's family, or kidnap them basically in their own home, so that they can force the warden to break out Baby.
Yeah.
During this part, a clown just shows up to the door for no reason.
Yes.
Now, the idea is that it was a mistake. He showed up at the wrong place. I guess. Who the hell orders a clown at like that time at night?
Yes.
But whatever. A clown shows up and it's Clint Howard playing a clown. By the way, he looks much better with grease paint on.
Yes.
As an ugly man. But Clint Howard, love him, but holy shit, what the fuck? What was this scene?
This scene was almost broke me. Because I was like, why is this here?
The only thing I can think of is this was Zombie's way to introduce some form of levity.
I guess,
Which I reiterate, he had to... Look, to be fair to Zombie, he had to rewrite this script last minute. Because Sid Haig was very clearly sick. We'll talk about that later. But he had to rewrite the script and rework it to fit in Richard Brake's character a lot more into the story than previously thought. So one assumes that there were gags that he really wanted to do that don't work without Sid Haig.
Yeah.
So there's a callback to, Otis hating clowns and his, kind of like a love him, hate him relationship with I forgot his fucking name, Captain Spaulding, who is a clown, obviously. So I guess this was his way of patching that over.
Yeah.
Whatever the case. Plus, on top of that, there is a very serious tone to the first part of it, despite, the fact that it's very grindhousey. There's a very serious tone, so I guess he was trying to introduce both humor and kind of patch over that absence. And it literally is just a fucking clown shows up.
Yes. It's not funny.
They end up making him do stuff. It sucks. And then they kill him. And that's the part that's supposed to be funny. And you're like,
that was the thing.
Why did this scene exist? It literally makes no fucking sense.
It failed at everything it was trying to do.
Yeah, the "I hate clowns" line flops because you just sat through that, and everybody in the scene is like, like they're supposed to be uncomfortable, but really you're like, that's how I feel. Like this scene sucks, ass.
It's bad, dude.
It's a confoundingly out of place scene.
That scene gets a freaking 0 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, it's a terrible fucking scene. It sucks gigantic balls.
Yes.
So there's also an excessive amount of stunt casting in this movie. Like people just show up for like a second. Like Chaz Bono for some fucking reason is in this. Like why? Okay, that's a thing that happened. Clint Howard as the fucking clown. I did like some, like Dee Wallace playing a weird, very 70s exploitation prison guard. That was cool. And a very, I'll give Zombie props for giving Dee Wallace jobs in an era when, people discarded female actors back then, especially if they were horror people. They didn't give a shit about them. So he keeps on giving her jobs. And she always plays really out of type in his movies. And this was weird. She was like a weird, almost pseudo-lesbian, super strict. It almost like she was lost in the role. It was pretty fucking strange to see that because she's so nice. So that's cool. Like the tip of the hat to Greta the Wicked Warden there. So that was cool too. But, at times you're like, do we really need that cameo, here and there or that cast here and there? It wasn't as cool as the casting in Devil's Rejects. Yeah. Where you're like, hell yeah, that's cool. Michael Berryman, cool. Kim Foray, cool. Chaz Bono? Come on, man.
And there's no, like, breathing room until towards the later half where people are just kind of hanging out. And you're like, that's a cool guy right there. Yeah. Even though they're buttholes. Here's just their buttholes.
Yeah, I agree.
And then the movie ends.
So, yeah, and I totally agree. The cameo stuff and or, kind of gimmicky stuff works a lot better in that latter portion. Yeah. Because there is a sense of, like, one, you've hit the stride. Two, the characters, you're comfortable to like them again. So, yeah, that entire section opens up.
Which is funny because that section is very much just the scene from Devil's Rejects again.
Yeah, it really is. So only now we have it, painted over that they're in Mexico and they're facing off luchador-masked assassins, I guess. Yeah. So, that tickled our pickles. Yeah. So, anyway, give me something you disliked and or liked about this movie. In general.
I actually ended up kind of liking, I always forget his name, the guy that was in freaking Doom.
Oh, Richard Brake?
Yeah. He's a cool little guy. I like him. As in him, the guy.
The actor.
Yeah. And he does kind of fit in. And by the end, I was like, yeah, he's a pretty cool addition.
Yeah, he is a very appropriate character and actor to fit into the formula. If you're going to lose one of the, if not the person that represents this series, here's somebody that's worked with Zombie before and really gets where Zombie's going. Now, I will say that as much as I liked him filling in that spot, and as much as, we already like the other characters that have been there, I will say that at the beginning, especially, or I should say really only at the beginning, some of the dialogue felt forced. Like, it's almost like it didn't click. Like, there was not, and again, maybe this is just because that Spalding factor is not there anymore. He really fucking eased that dialogue into working. It just feels like,
they're saying things.
Yeah, people don't speak like that. And there's no chemistry between them. That changes as the movie goes along, and you actually get to feel like they talk to each other like that.
And it also weirdly works better when they split them up. And they're just alone.
I agree. I really, you're absolutely right. So that's a kind of a weird thing to get over, but he is a very adequate actor to bring into this universe. So that's cool. Also returning is that little midget guy that was in 31.
I like the little midget guy.
He was a pretty cool addition. This got to be my favorite part of the movie, really.
Yeah, they should have kept him alive.
That's kind of fucked up that he ended up dying. Spoiler. Again, you really got to watch the movies before you come and talk with us here. But the point is, this character ends up being kind of like a de facto Quasimodo type to Baby's Esmeralda, and that was kind of a cool way, again, a good way to soften up the family so that viewers can like them and understand that that's what they really ultimately represent, anti-authoritarianism and freedom of the self. So that was a good way to communicate all that. Here's a character that takes a liking to them and they a liking to him just because they helped each other out. That was cool, man. He was a good character. He was a fun character to like. And, he shouldn't have died. That was kind of shitty.
I think also the guy, I don't even know if he had a name, honestly, because half the time he spoke, I didn't understand him. But
okay, so they end up in this Mexican town that's basically run by this cat, all right? This weird guy with a hat. And he's basically since this movie is basically just Devil's Rejects reworked, he would be the Ken Foray character. Yeah. Only he's not as cool as Ken Foray, but he's basically like if Boomhauer from King of the Hill was old.
I was thinking a mix of Boomhauer and like Emil Sitka from the Three Stooges.
Yeah.
I really liked him. He was funny. He was a funny little character. He was like one of those characters that shows up in a Rob Zombie movie. You're like, that's a funny dude,
And that's also a fun thing. We get a wide swath of weird characters that just show up and you would expect from a Rob Zombie movie. And they're all pretty likable in their own particular ways. Or if they're not likable, they're unlikable in the way that they're supposed to be. So that's always enjoyable to watch in a Rob Zombie movie, for me anyway. How many weird, ultimately kind of inconsequential characters he introduces into the mix, and you're just kind of like, I kind of like that person, or I like watching them at the very least. Just like Ken Foray's character in
Halloween.
In Halloween.
Yeah.
What was his name?
Grizzly Adams?
No, not Grizzly Adams.
Yeah, wasn't it? Grizzly something?
Was it John Grizzly? I forget.
There you go. Something.
I wanted a movie about him much more than I wanted Rob Zombie's Halloween movie. So, Rob Zombie always kind of populates his movies with weirdo characters like that. And there's a lot of that to chew on here as well. Wayne Toth came back for the special effects, and, he's as good as he's always been. They look particularly good. The cinematography, this is something you can never, ever shoot Rob Zombie down for. He has an eye for this stuff. He makes the stuff look good. It can be shitty, and it'll look good. You know what I'm saying? Like, 31's not a great movie, but it looks good. You can't ever knock the guy down for that.
It looks good to the genre that it's trying to be. Yeah.
Even then, it looks way above the standard of that genre while never losing the feeling of that genre. This looks like an exploitation movie, but it looks like a damn good exploitation movie. It evokes that feeling. It calls back to it. There's a knowledge to the callbacks to it. So it's not stuck in the rut of just being an exploitation movie. There's a self-awareness to it, and there's a problem. You got to walk a line when you're self-aware, because if you're too self-aware, you jump out of exploitation into just farce, and he just knows what team to pick, what cinematographer to get. He's worked with them for a while, and they make it look good. We know from his stuff before that he himself has an eye for that stuff. So I gotta say, as far as Rejects and this one go, in terms of getting that exploitation flavor, visually, this one did it more. However, Rejects did it more competently.
Yeah, I do think that there is a lot more of that exploitation-y feel, like you said, especially in the music.
Mm-hmm.
There's parts where people will be talking and you just hear weird little stings, like, and that's like something straight out of an exploitation movie. So that was cool too. That also fed into the feel. Yeah,
I agree. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, and yes, we mean us. It's going to be a dull conversation.
Yeah.
No, the elephant in the room, of course, is that Sid Haig. He was cast in this movie years before it fucking filmed. Of course, there was many delays in getting the movie made, And ultimately, when it was in production, everybody started remarking that he looked particularly sickly. And, you know, they were saying, dude, you got to take care of yourself. He swore up and down countless times, either in public or via Twitter or through his wife, that he was fine. Stop telling him he's going to die. You know, which, yeah, it's fucked up that people were telling him that. But, you know, I got to be honest, as a fan, I was concerned. He did look particularly ill. Upon seeing the movie, holy shit.
Yeah.
Holy shit. All that, you know, arguably he was the best actor. Not even arguably, he was the best actor in the family. You know, this is a seasoned veteran. He knew how to chew the scenery just the right way to make it good. And we all know how well he did as Spaulding. That energy, that spark is completely gone in this. It's like he can barely get through the lines.
He looked just tired.
Yeah, tired. Yeah. You know, some of the lines, they just don't come across right. They, you know, when he's laughing and it's supposed to be like this knowing, sadistic edge to the laughter, it's just like, ha, 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 ha. Yeah, well, you know, it's just, it's sad, man. It's sad to see, and you can see why they wrote him out of it.
Yeah.
You know, of course, we would later find out that Rob Zombie was like, yeah, I better.
Yeah, apparently he visited him in the hospital and was like, whoa, this guy lost a lot of weight because the last time he had seen him, he was still. And then he had to ask for them to let him be in the movie.
Yeah.
And that's all they could get.
It's really unfortunate. We only see him here for the briefest moments. And honestly, I think it would have been better if we didn't even hear him talk, because it's just a sad reminder of, you know, how far he had gone, you know, that way. But, you know, it is what it is. And he's severely missed in the movie, period. I know we've said it already, but you know, it's just good to reiterate that, because he is severely missed. You know, you can feel that absence in every scene. He would have done a lot for that first chunk of the movie for sure. So anyway, anything you gotta add, like or dislike? Hit me with it.
I think we've already hit everything, because you mentioned the stuff that I was gonna mention. Cool. I do like how it looks.
There is a wicker monkey in the Mexican town that they end up shacking up in that we must own.
Yeah, wicker monkey is the biggest pro.
Wicker monkey needs top billing in this movie.
There's also a three-legged dog.
Three-legged dog needs an Academy Award.
That joins the freaking clan by the end.
Yeah, what the fuck is that? 4 from hell? Or is the 3 legs he had the 3 from hell? Yeah. Ultimate question. I don't know, man.
These paws.
So anyway, let's give any final thoughts and a final score on a scale of 1 to 10. Again, relative to the other movies. I don't think we've done single video reviews of the other movies, but I would give Devil's Rejects like a solid 9.5 as, you know, a film that harkens back to that hardcore, gritty 70s era exploitation film. Obviously, in comparison to Apocalypse Now, it gets a 0, but you know what I mean, you know? So, yeah, and House of a Thousand Corpses is a very fun movie that I really enjoy. I give it a solid 7.5. Although, fun-wise, it's a solid 9, too. Yeah. But compared to Rejects, it's an inferior movie. But now, knowing that, what do we rate this picture? Where does it stand? Hit me with your final thoughts and the final score.
I think it's kind of a shame that they didn't put a little more into this movie. I think that it could have been an interesting thing to do. Have each movie be a different kind of exploitation movie. Like the first movie was very silly.
Yeah.
Second one was more serious. This could have been another kind. Instead, they just kind of retread, which is unfortunate. And look, the lack of a villain is a big negative to this movie. And even when they do introduce the villain, he's not particularly great. It's just that there is a villain now, and he works. You know, the actor's good, so he works. But it is a little bit of a freaking missed opportunity. That being said, I do like the latter half. And I don't know, maybe this will improve when I see it again. I don't know. I'm a little torn on it. So I'll give it a 6, because I just don't. I think it could have been so much better. But it is a fun movie towards the end.
I think the ultimate aspect that contributes to its detriment is that initial 30 to 40 minute stretch, really like 45 maybe stretch where there's just something missing. And that goes beyond Spalding. There's just something missing to make everything click. And while aesthetically it's beautiful and it works, if you're familiar with exploitation style film, it works on that level visually, orally even. There's just something missing in terms of the script and the actors even. Now, when it does hit stride, it hits the ground running, and that's a good thing because that's ultimately what saves this movie. And the latter half is very entertaining, and it makes you kind of look back on the first half with different eyes. I do think that shifting that villain introduction further up in the run would have done a lot to ease that kind of shambolic, weird meandering way it was going in the first place.
I also think that since this did rip too much, like a lot on Devil's Rejects, making that villain despicable again would have helped because now he's just he's cool visually, but he gets his ass kicked pretty quickly once they come in. You know what I mean? Like having that drive and make him more menacing. By introducing him earlier would have been.
Even if he was not menacing, even if it was just sheer self-righteousness, that worked in Devil's Rejects, The guy was right, he just was an asshole. So anything with the villain being brought up in the running time would have really helped this movie be a lot more palatable for its first half. And again, that has a lot to do with the fact that these characters are not palatable, and they're not meant to be palatable, so you have to make them palatable. And there was no effort done or taken to make that happen in that first half. But yes, a lot of fun had in that latter half, and it did touch on a lot of stuff that just as fans of cinema, nerds, we like. Aesthetically speaking, you put a man in a luchador mask, I'm happy in a movie. It's just a thing that tickles my old ding. They did use the word dingaling in it to refer to a penis, so that's good. And it had a wicker monkey in it,
dude.
So that's great.
Wicker monkey takes 10 out of 10.
Wicker monkey alone, 10 out of 10.
0 out of 10 for Clint Howard though.
Oh man, Clint. That Clint scene deserves like at least 2 points knocked off. It was useless. I will say that Sherry Moon Zombie, this is probably the best she's done. Acting wise, she's still not a good actress, but with Baby, that's forgivable because she's insane, But she does do a whole lot better here. I guess the second best role she's had is probably Lords of Salem, where she plays it a lot more, moderate, thankfully. So at least she can do a little bit here and there, but it's not saying much because she's not a good actress. But again, in these movies, that kind of is forgiven. So there's that.
I would still hit that too.
I think, she looks much older and super hot. I like the older Sherry. Would bang out of 10. That's my rating for Sherry. Wicker Monkey still gets a higher rating though.
Also would bang out of 10.
Make a wicker hole in it. There's a lot of stuff that I liked in this movie, and ultimately it was an enjoyable experience. I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10. I can't put it above House. So House has got the 7.5. I got to put it at least a point down. No, 2 points down for Clint Howard's sequence alone. A point down for that first half, which feels meandering and kind of like, redundant. And, there's some ways this movie could have been saved. That being said, it's better than 31. So, there's that. And I do have a feeling that upon rewatching, it'll be a lot easier to watch and enjoy.
It doesn't feel, ultimately, though pointless while watching it, the first half, it doesn't feel like a pointless movie.
Yeah, that's the good. Yeah, that's a really good thing.
Because it does introduce some good stuff. It just takes a while.
If you liked the other two movies, chances are you will like this one. If you don't like Rob Zombie, then you probably won't like it. That's it. It's not a big point of contention, guys, in the horror community. You either like them or you don't. And that's it. all you could do is give it a fair shot, and if it doesn't tickle your dick, then it doesn't. Yeah. Tickled mine fairly enough. And that's it. I had a wicker monkey, man.
Dude, the wicker monkey, yeah.
So there it is. That's our thoughts on 3 from Hell. Let us know what you think. Hit like, share, subscribe. In the meantime, because we're out.